Welcome to the Authentic Man podcast. I am your host, David Chambers. This is a podcast for men who want more and less from life. More deep connection, more emotional intelligence, more self-awareness, and more great sex. And less heartache, less conflict, less overthinking, and less stress. Creating dating lives, sex lives, and relationships that are incredible and authentic. My deepest goal is that you, the listener, can take away what you hear in this podcast and apply it to your life so that you can experience greater happiness, transformational growth, deeper relationships, and profound sexual intimacy. I believe that as men, we are capable of so much more depth than we are shown or led to believe. So join me as we get deep into this. Hello, and welcome to the Authentic Man podcast. I'm your host, David Chambers, and welcome to another very high performance episode. I'm really happy with this week's episode. I'm joined by Joel Burgess, a friend of mine. I've got to know him through Instagram. We've done some really beautiful Instagram lives. And talking about, this week we're talking about, high performance, motivation, setting goals, all the stuff that's so important in terms of creating success. Whatever area of life you're trying to create success in, whether that be, work, business, finances, relationship as well, right? You can also create motivation inside that area as well, and something we touch on a little bit around motivation especially. But yeah, like Joel, he's a high performance coach and he specializes in, productivity, habits and mindset, which is, beautiful work. He's kind of broken away from the kind of corporate world and he's built himself an amazing seven figure food tech business, and he's really on a mission to kind of empower men to live lives of passion, purpose and fulfillment. And, his mission is deeply and closely linked to my own, and he's a real kind of, he's got a lot of energy, Joel, real kind of, a real beautiful energy about him as well, really calm, but he's got a lot of energy for life. And, building life by design and not just by how it is, how it's meant to be. And he looks at everything, growing mentally, physically and spiritually. So I'm really happy to have him as a guest. We had a lot of fun. It's an episode we recorded a little while ago. But it's a lot of amazing insights inside this, talking about ways you can, create motivation in your life. How do we create motivation? Is it something that's just like there or not there? Even we talk about the signs of not being motivated because, surprisingly, some of the signs actually really made me think, oh, wow, there's certain places in my life that I'm not motivated. So, you might have this secret lack of motivation that you're not aware of, that if you can remedy, it takes you to a higher level of performance and creativity and creation. We talk a lot about habits and creating really great, solid habits. And ways to create good habits. Like he's got a very simple tip about how to create a really, really fucking good habit. And I think it's something that's really definitely worth listening to because it's very important, and ways to do that and to keep them in place. We talk a bit about purpose because I think purpose is something that comes along and we often struggle with purpose. Like, what is purpose? How do I find purpose? We have a really great section of the podcast here where we talk about how to find your purpose, how to align with your purpose, like how to know it is your purpose as well, which is a really great listen. So I think that's all the details about that. It's a great episode, as I said. I'm really looking forward to you hearing this, and I'd love to hear some of your feedback. Feel free to message me on Instagram. My handle is at @theauthenticman_, and let me know what you thought of the episode, what tips you took from it, and what changes you're going to go and make to your life after listening to it, because there's definitely going to be some of those. So without further ado, it's time to jump into the episode. So, hey boys and girls, ready for another wonderful podcast episode today. And I have a wonderful guest with me today. And I know him from a few men's groups and talks that we've been involved in and Clubhouse. As a man who, from my experiences, has a huge open heart and is incredibly motivated and focused on what he's created in his life. And also, hopefully, he's going to tell you a bit more, but he has a beautiful journal, right? I see this journal on Instagram, and every time I see it, I'm like, man, I wish I had a journal like that I created. But yeah, I'll introduce you to Joel.
Great to connect. You're looking forward to this. Very,
Yeah,
very excited. Our
yeah,
last
yeah.
conversation was beautiful. So
Yeah, yeah. We had a really beautiful conversation on Instagram Live about confidence and feelings and emotions and expression, if I remember rightly.
that's it. Yeah. Yeah. It's lovely.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Joel, give the listeners an introduction about you and the wonderful work that you do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Where to start? Well, I suppose let's start with the present moment. I am a coach. I specialize, I suppose, in high performance, transformation. So I coach kind of two types of people. One is CEOs, founders, C-level people looking to get the most out of life, themselves, their business, and also people going through transformation. People who want more from life, whether that's new role or just feel a little bit lost. Having gone through that journey myself, that's another real area that I just absolutely love, seeing that transformation. So that's me in the current moment. I've got a food tech business as well, which was very heavily affected by COVID, sadly. But we're trying to work an exit at the moment for the business. That was a business I worked on for the last four and a bit years. Before that, I was kind of in property, working around the world. So I worked in Singapore, Jakarta, Dubai, Hong Kong, and then London before that. But really, founding the food tech business kind of sent me on this journey of self-development, self-inquiry, and through kind of necessity, I had to work smarter, had to work better, and just fell in love with the whole personal development space. Initially trained to be a coach, to be a better manager within my business, but then was like, wow, I love coaching, and it's what I see myself doing for the rest of my life. So yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful work when you can work one-to-one or one-to-many, depending what the program is, and you can really see people change and transform and expand as humans. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah, exactly. It is the most fulfilling job there is. I honestly feel so lucky that I get to do it, and it's not short of challenges, obviously, but it's just incredible seeing people's lives change. And I suppose I've tried to create my own angle at it, and my own approach to life. And actually, when you share that with people, and that you see them applying it and impacting their life, and sharing how much transformation they've experienced as a result, it's like it makes it all worthwhile. So yeah, I just absolutely love it.
Beautiful. And it must be really interesting and challenging to work with people who are like founders and CEOs, because they have risen to the point they have, and for them to take on new information, and also their work ethic must be something a lot different from the kind of average human being.
Yeah, it's a totally different type of conversation and work. It's a lot more. My role there is a lot more to just hold space, and help them see what they can't see. So I do less kind of teaching and less sharing of strategies, but I do more, holding space, asking powerful questions, and challenging them as well. I think that's probably one of the hardest things about being a coach, is actually, you can't be their best friend. You've got to challenge them. You've got to call them out, and you've got to challenge their assumptions, challenge their goals, challenge everything about them. And I think that's the thing that really like stands good coaches and okay coaches apart, is if you're willing to challenge them. So it's a different type of conversation for sure. It's a lot more holding space, less talking from my part, and more just holding space and asking the right questions at the right time. But yeah, love both type of clients. It's a very different experience, but love both type of clients.
Just listening for those paradigms, or those limiting paradigms that people communicate sometimes in their words and even in their actions, and just being, it's sometimes a question I ask often when I'm coaching men, is like, so is that true? Is what you just said, is that true? And people are like, yes, of course it's true. And you go, wait, And just when you start to delve into that, and it's like the way you can see a light bulb goes off in someone's head when they realize that they've not living out of an assumption, but often living off some assumptions that are completely false.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sometimes just so fun to like play around with it. And often we like, okay, let's just assume that isn't true. Like let's do a thinking exercise and imagine this is true. How would you approach it differently? And it's like, oh yeah, it's just taking off a different lens, and you put on a new lens and you see life completely differently. So a lot of time it's almost gamifying your assumptions. I had this one client who, we agreed on some goals, and I just said, like, how do you think differently if your goals were 10 times bigger? And he was like, oh cool, I'll do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And he was like, why shouldn't they be 10 times bigger? And then on the back of that one question, he hired another 15 staff, because he saw this opportunity that, because his goals were 10 times smaller at the time, still big, but 10 times smaller, he ruled out that that avenue. So just that one question of like, what if your goals were 10 times bigger? It's like, oh yeah, do this, this, and this. It's like, look, you don't need to look through life with this lens. And it's actually something that I often ask myself. I think it's Paul Graham, who's a venture capitalist. He says, work out, just like a thinking exercise, think of your 10-year goal and work out how you can achieve that in the next 6 months, just as a pure thinking exercise. And it just completely changes the quality of your thinking. You suddenly start thinking at scale. You suddenly start thinking, things that, exponentially can grow. And it's not just restricted to, what your beliefs are saying is achievable. So that's the power of coaching. It just gets you to think, like, gets you to take off a pair of, beliefs that you have, and look at life through another set of beliefs. And it's like, oh yeah, I don't need to believe that's true. I don't need to believe anything is true. I get to choose my beliefs at any one point. So yes, it's powerful stuff.
Oh, amazing. And there's a completely different tact. How is fatherhood treating you?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's challenging. Don't get me wrong. It's really, really challenging. Like, it's amazing for all the obvious reasons. Like, you've just got this little person that just smiles every time she looks at me. You just can't love a human more than your daughter or your son. And it is just beautiful. And it's really, yesterday I spent probably 2 hours just watching her. Like, she's really good at playing on her own. And yesterday I just spent 2 hours lying there watching her, and I felt so present. There was no need for me to go on my phone or, watch TV or anything like that, or read a book. I just sat there watching her. And that was just, babies, I think, just simplify life, and they simplify things that you get enjoyment from. So that's amazing. But at the same time, it's incredibly challenging. Like, especially on the sort of productivity side of things, it's like, I'm no longer the person I used to be. Like, and I can't even be close to that person. So I've struggled with letting stuff go. Like, I've struggled with a little bit letting the level of productivity that I used to be able to achieve. I've struggled with letting that go, and I'm getting there. But at the same time, it's like, really refine my focus and question, like, what's important? What do I need to let go of? And like, time is so valuable now, and it goes so quickly, but time is so valuable that I want to stop work by 5, by 6 latest, because like, those few hours I get with my daughter before I put her to bed, I just are so valuable. So it really pushes you to like be super effective, super efficient in the time that you're working. The lack of sleep is, most parts, she's an amazing sleeper, but like, you can have one bad night where you get 3 hours sleep, and it's a real challenge to be on your best form then. But like, I'm all about being proactive. So, when you have a daughter or a baby or son, you have to be so proactive with your energy levels. You have to be so proactive with your routines. You have to be so proactive with your motivation. So it's been a real challenge, but also, like, I've enjoyed it. I feel like it's a challenge to bring out the best in me, and And it's like, cool, okay, I got 3 hours sleep last night. Right, how can I still have a good day? So I've enjoyed the challenge. It was definitely a shock to the system, but I love it.
Wow. Well, it sounds like it's really brought out the best in you, and some essence, and some things you maybe even realized you didn't quite have in the locker, like bringing a next level of efficiency to your working and focus. And also, I imagine it's made you, to a certain degree, like maybe a little less work focused, and seeing that there's more of a bigger picture than you even saw before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like just how much enjoyment you can get from simple things. Like we really just don't need much to be really happy and really fulfilled. Like 3 hours or 2 hours passed yesterday, and I was just watching her, watching her little hands and watching her facial expressions and her noises. And it's like, I was so deeply like filled with love and joy. So yeah, it is a life changer, and mostly for the good. I would say all for the good.
yeah, totally. I look forward to it I imagine the next few years that will come for me. My only experience is my younger sister had a little boy about a year and a half ago, and when he was born, I just kind of looked at him in the cot, and I was like, I'm also responsible for your being. And I was like really moved in that moment, like, you're a little human being, I'm going to watch you grow. And now he's like 1.5, and he's like running around, and when he comes and I go and see him, and he's like all excited, and he's just like, the world to you is just so new and amazing. And you, like you said, you can just sit and just watch them. We put a blanket over his head, and he just like stumbles around the front room laughing. He's hilarious, falling over and falling here, falling there. And you're just like, man, I wish I could have so much fun with a blanket over my head.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Like it blows my mind how happy my daughter is. Like she looks at you, and then it's just big smile, and then you look at her again, big smile. And it's like, what a way to live. Like, and there's nothing stopping us live like that, like in every moment, taking joy out of. And it's actually, I was having this thought the other day whilst I was working out. This sort of quote that says, "Live every day like it's your last," and it's a quote that's, to be honest, has really challenged me, and I've really not liked it, because I'm like, well, you can't live every day like it's your last, because then you'd be, off, in a yacht or something, or just, but actually what it really means is like taking the enjoyment out of absolutely anything possible, like just being totally present, and like however small a moment is, like just cherishing that, and every interaction with the person just being totally all there. And like, that is the challenge, and that's what the goal is, right? It's just a quote I really aim to live by. It's, wherever you are, be there. It's just simple quote. It's like, just if you're with someone, be all there with them. If you're working, be all there. If you're with, if you're going for a walk, be all there. If you're, whatever it is, just be all there. And that's, for me, is what living every day like last is about. It's just being totally fully engaged with every single moment of life. So yeah, went off on a tangent there.
No, but I love that quote. I'm not too similar. I've always felt like living every day like it's your last just feels a bit kind of troubling, doesn't it? Because you're like, okay, if every day was the last, how would you live? Would we be doing some of the mundane things that we do? Like some of the things that we need to do, because we know there's going to be a tomorrow and a next week. But what you said there is like being totally present, be here now. I've got a friend of mine, actually, I think they have it as their screensaver. It's like, be here now. And it's like every time, like you said, like being here, we're sitting here, we're talking, I'm completely here, and I'm not thinking about, I say this a lot to because the clients I work with, especially around kind of dating and even relationship coaching I do, is be there, not thinking about where you want this thing to take you to, or what you need to say to get you to somewhere else. Because if you're not right there with the person in the moment, you're going to lose so much. It's almost like you lose the juice of the moment.
100%. And I was watching something the other day, or listening to something that said, just by having a phone in eyesight diminishes the quality of that engagement and the quality of your empathy. So just having a phone there, it takes your attention off. So I honestly don't think there's a bigger gift in the world you can give someone than being fully present with them. And it's the same, like, that's really all I want to give my daughter is like, when I'm with her, like, be all there with her, be 100% present. It's also been a massive challenge working from home because, you know, we're in Vancouver at the moment at my father-in-law's place, and I'm working in the same room that my daughter plays in. And it's been very mentally challenging for me because I like to be all in wherever I am, but it's been almost impossible here because I've been working, and then I look behind and she's kind of staring at me, grinning. It's like, I can't be all there. I can't be, you know, so it has been challenging working from home, but so I am looking forward to kind of some separation between work and home. And then it's like, right. I used to do it when I drove home from work. It's like, I'd stop, you know, I'd breathe, I'd reset and be like, right, as soon as I walk in that door, it's home, Joel. It's like, talk about Cal Newport, the writer of Deep Work. He also talks about deep love, you know, like deep work, deep love, deep rest, whatever you want to call it, but deep love, like being so there that they can feel your presence. So I used to, reset and be like, right, as soon as I walk in that door, I'm all there. You know, it's not always possible. Like, it is a challenge because we've got so much going on, but you know, we have to be intentional to at least give ourselves a chance, I think.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's so true. To just like switching in and out, like you said, with work from home, it's just really difficult to have any separation. And I think that's something where I think a lot of people I know are looking forward to, is just being able to put things into their boxes. You know, we're human beings, we love to put things into boxes, but actually it actually works quite well for us in terms of giving us the separation between things, so that when we can be more present in the thing that we're about to take on. But it's a lovely thing just to, one of the meditations I do with Sam Harris, I don't know if you know Waking Up, the app. Yeah. And he recommends that whenever you finish a task, is to just spend, even if it's 5 or 10 seconds, and just close your eyes and just breathe and just be present to the fact that you're finishing that thing and you're going to start something new. Because so rarely we just go straight thing to thing. Yeah. And that's how we build a lot of stress.
Yeah, 100%. I think I listened to his podcast with Tim Ferriss where he talks about just being present in everyday actions, like washing the dishes. And I've been trying to consciously do that because I've been before, like washing the dishes. Oh, this is a great opportunity to listen to a podcast. And I listen to a podcast, and actually there is like enjoyment you can get from being totally present with washing the dishes, like feeling the water and the soap in your hand, and just allowing yourself to get lost in like washing the dishes. And sometimes I do that after a big deep work session. I'll just go and wash the dishes. And it does just weirdly reset you. So yeah, I get that kind of need to reset, just a few seconds, few minutes washing dishes, whatever it is.
Yeah, just really feel the senses. I love that. As always, beautiful conversation just to start off with you.
Yeah.
I feel like we will get into the question of the episode. So today we're going to kind of talk about, you know, loosely around like motivation and consistency and goals and creating kind of successful mindset. I think it's something that comes up with a lot of my clients, even around their dating and their relationships, but obviously in the rest of life. Like, you know, life, our different compartments of life aren't always as different as we think they are, you know. And sometimes, often, all the times, the structures and the things that we apply to one can apply across the board. But one of the things I'm seeing now with a lot of people I'm speaking to, like whether they're in my community, people are coaching, is around just motivation. People are really struggling with a lack of motivation. I know it's, you know, we've just been through the last year and it's been COVID affected. And often I think we don't even realize that we're lacking motivation. And that's the thing I want to talk about first, is like, what are the signs that you're lacking motivation in your life to kind of move forward with what's important to you?
I think some signs would most likely be, you know, procrastination, confusion, overwhelm, lack of clarity. Just not having clarity of where you're going or what you want. And that obviously leads to sort of second guessing. It leads to inaction and procrastination. You know, when you're stood still, there's way more options available to you when you're moving forwards. And I think I think you're either in like a healthy spiral, an upward spiral or a downward spiral. And I think it's when you're in that downward spiral, it are things like lacking clarity, procrastination, being very reactive, consuming rather than creating, distracting yourself, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're not doing anything, but it's just like you might be doing stuff just to distract yourself. You might be feeling like you're effective, but actually you're just busy. You're on emails, you're on Slack, you're on WhatsApp or whatever. So you could be just masking what's really going on underneath. So it's sort of lacking that intentional action, that kind of inspirational action. So yeah, I'd say any of those.
No, and I see this with a lot of clients I work with is around overthinking. It kind of speaks into what you're saying. It's like when we are, we're lacking motivation. It's like we are thinking about all the options. And you were saying this about when you're not taking any actions, it always seems like there's so many options, and then it leads to people being overwhelmed. And this is just a common state for a lot of people. It's just like we are so flooded with options in the day and age we live in now that it just often we can just feel so overwhelmed all the time and feeling like, okay, I don't want to do anything because I don't want to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, exactly. People love to future pace certain scenarios, and you can do it with absolutely anything, and you can do it to a case where it just stops you taking any action. It leaves you sitting still. But our brains love, there's a quote, I think it's by Michael Neal. He says, we don't fear the unknown, we fear what we think we know about the unknown. We almost trick ourselves that we know what the unknown is. It's like, it's what we think. We fear we actually fear what we think. We lost it now.
Yeah, we had
it.
I
lost the quote, but that's like, that's it. We create these like stories of how it's going to pan out, and we fear that. Whereas actually, the only way to gain clarity of whether that's going to pan out is to take a step forward. Momentum leads to clarity. Once you start building momentum, you start to, rule out what's not true, what's not going to work. You start to rule out things, and then as you rule out things, you get more clarity, and then it's easier to make more intentional action. So, yeah.
Yeah, ruling things out, I think, is the fear. And I really like the quote. Actually, it's like we kind of put it into a way that I can formulate that in my brain really easily. It's like we fear not what is going to happen in the future, what might happen. We fear the projection of the future that we create.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then we get that story and we're like, oh, I don't want that to happen. What will I lose? And it kind of, and also when we're sitting doing that a lot of the time is we're not coming from the place of what we'd really love to happen. We are sitting in that place of like what we're afraid that's going to happen. And I see that with a lot with people, we're not taught to spend time to go, okay, what would I really love to happen in the future? We don't put that much time to that, but we're so ingrained in us to like think, okay, what am I afraid is going to happen in the future? And how do I mitigate all of that right now?
Yeah, 100%. Some of my clients often come to me, like I, ask them what their biggest challenge is. They say, I want to know that I'm on the right path. I'm like, how do you know there is a right path? Like, is there a right path? Just even asking them that.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I think, and we discussed this last time, this kind of idea of discovery versus creation. And I think this quote, find your purpose, find your passion. Like, I think that's part of the problem. People believe that there's something innate in them that they have to find. And it's this one thing. It's like a calling where they'll be struck by lightning and suddenly they wake up and they know what they need to do.
Yeah.
People talk about finding their purpose, finding their passion, but really they're creating it. And I think that's like a societal pressure where it's like, you must find your purpose, you must find your passion. And then that just leads people to this kind of inaction through overthinking and rationalization and second guessing yourself, because it's like, oh, do you think that's my purpose? Do you think that's my passion? But the way to find your purpose or passion is to try stuff, to take action, you know, to embrace failure, to create your purpose. Like, go out there and try things, and if you like it, do more of it. You know, if you feel a strong pull, like, keep going with it. So I think this kind of idea of finding your passion or finding your purpose is creating part of this problem, where people are just sort of paralyzed by choice, by overthinking things and second guessing themselves. So I've just done a post on exactly that, because, you know, I do think there's innate skills in us. We do have natural gifts, but we could apply those to any vocation. You know, we could apply those skills to any vocation. So it's a case of like, yes, we have natural skills and gifts, but we could have multiple purposes, multiple passions. You know, I'm now passionate about writing. 4 years ago, I hated writing, and I had a belief that I was a terrible writer. You know, throughout my whole life, everyone told me, you're terrible at writing, you're terrible at writing. Now I love writing. It genuinely is a passion of mine. But I've created that through like getting very clear on what I wanted, and then stepping outside of my comfort zone and forcing myself to write every single day. And there's some amazing books on this, like Cal Newport does a great book called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And another is Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, a great book on this as well. It talks about turning pro, you know, turning up no matter what.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying about the right path. I think we have this preoccupation with being with the right and wrong. We're taught from such a young age that there is right and wrong. And my belief more and more as I get older is like, they're bollocks. There's nothing's right and nothing's wrong. There's no obviousness, like no action you take is necessarily the right action or the wrong action. It's just that, it's just the action you took, and that's it, because that moment is now gone. You took that action, and that had to be the right action because there was no other action that you actually took. So when people are like, oh, am I on the right path? I almost answer to people like, yes. It's always yes.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, because I'm going to try that. I do like that.
Because what is the wrong path? Like, and does the wrong path, even if you do take an action that's not quite right, you learn something from it. It gives you some feedback, gives you information that probably sets you more towards what you want to be doing. So it's like, is there anything that happens that's like wrong or bad for us? Yeah,
exactly. And I suppose it's probably been, I've been very fortunate in the fact that my parents never put any pressure on me to follow a certain career or a certain path. And I was actually, I remember saying this like a few years back, like, I wish my parents told me not to do engineering, or I wish, because I did mechanical engineering at uni, which, you know, I did just because I was good at maths and physics. I had no better reason to do it than that. And I didn't really enjoy it, and I wish I did something else. And I was like, I wish my parents would told me not to do it or told me what to do. But actually, they never told me what to do. They never actually gave me any advice about careers or uni. They're incredibly supportive and they're incredible parents, but they never said, you've got to go become a doctor or you've got to do this. So I from the moment I started work after uni, there was always something in me that's like, I'm not aligned with this. You know, what's the thing I'm aligned with? And there was this itch inside me that I just wasn't engaged with what I was doing. And I was always searching for this, like, I talk about being fully engaged with life. And I think that's really the goal, like being fully engaged with what you're doing. And I had no alignment and wasn't engaged at all with my first 10 years of work. And that's why I tried stuff. Like I changed jobs, country multiple times. I've tried 3 different things. I've probably changed my identity like 4 or 5 times.
Mm.
And I'm now at a place where I'm so fully engaged with life. Like, it's not always easy, but I'm totally engaged with it. And like, that's the goal, like to be totally engaged and in alignment, you know. And I've got multiple purposes. I'm a purpose, you know, of a dad, a father, you know, a coach, hopefully an influencer or a guru, or either, both of those words I hate, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think actually coming back to that point of like the right path, yeah, exactly. There is no right or wrong. It's just whatever you create.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's just, it seems to be a preoccupation we have a lot. It's just like, is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? And it's a very, like I think we talked about before, it's like there's this egoic need to always be right. Like, why do we need to be right? How about, you know, and this is a coaching question that I've asked people before, is like, okay, I have a task for you. I want you to go out and do the wrong thing in this area. Go do the wrong thing. Go out and do the wrong thing. And they're like, what do you mean I can't do that? It will mess things up. I'm like, no, try it. Just go do it. Because often we realize that we go and do the thing that we say is quote unquote wrong. And it's actually not that wrong, or we learn something really obvious or whatever it may be. And it's like, and you can start to strip away this idea of what, like, right and wrong or good and bad even. It's just because it's often it's very rigid, and it doesn't really help us in our progression and our growth going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that comes to mind is, so my coach, a guy called Alistair Gray, is founder of Mindful Talent. He gave me an exercise the other day. I'm on a group program of his, and he talks about knowing and not knowing. See, when we know something, we say it, and then full stop. I know, full stop. But when we say I don't know, there's a comma, and then we carry on speaking. And what we try and do is we try and solve that I don't know, rather than being okay with not knowing. So he set me his challenge, and everyone else in the group, to any decision in your life, you either know or you don't know. And if you don't know, leave it at that. And know that the knowing will come. Trust that the knowing will come. And what you do by giving space of not being okay with not knowing, you give it space. And you provide space for further insight or new opportunities or other opportunities. And what most people do is they try and force an answer into that not knowing. And they try and solve something that's probably not ready to be solved. And they try and think their way through an answer, but really it can come from here. It can come from their intuition or their gut or whatever you want to call it. But when you try and think your way through an answer, you know, it's probably what society tells you, or what your parents told you, or someone else's voice, not yours. But when you give it space and wait for that intuition, that little internal nudge, that's when you make a really aligned decision with who you are. And it's been something I've found really uncomfortable, you know, because we are told we should know everything. And just saying, I don't know, full stop. Just nothing else.
Leaving it.
Just leaving it. And I have a group coaching program. I shared it with everyone on that, and they were like, but they just couldn't like get the concept. Like, just don't know. It's fine. Be fine with that.
Yeah. Be in the uncertainty. It's okay to not know. I think it's this. I feel we just grew up being told that we should always have an answer. Like having an answer is better than having no answer. Whereas and I really agree with you there, is that when we do, as you were saying, when we do try and create an answer straight away, it comes from a few places. It comes from our limited knowledge, our limited information that we've absorbed from, like you said, society, family, friends, the television, whatever. But there is this deeper knowing, I feel, that we can feel that our intuition will call us. And even when you leave the space open, you leave it for your intuition, but you also just leave it open for inspiration, like something occurring. Like if you say, you know, I don't know how to put up a light switch, and I go, I just don't know, and I'm cool with not knowing. Maybe 2 days later, you're sitting at home, and suddenly a thought pops into your head, and it's like some way in which you can do this thing. But if you had previously said that you know how to do it and you've made a decision, then you've shut yourself off to this anything new coming into you.
Exactly. And there's stats behind it, like 16% of creative insight is actually done or had at work. The rest, 84%, is when we're showering, when we're walking, when we're washing the dishes, like when we're working out. And like scientists can't get to the bottom of where that comes from, whether it's consciousness or whatever you want to call it. We have so few insights when we're actually like trying to rationalize and think our way through an answer. So we have to give it space, but to give it space, we have to be okay with not knowing. But when you actually think about it, it's like, if we knew everything, life would be incredibly boring.
Yes.
Like if we knew our path and whether that was the right path for us, life would be incredibly boring. Like the uncertainty and the variety that life throws at you, that's what's good about life. That's what engages you with life. And that's why, when people get really frustrated in jobs that they know and then can predict, uncertainty is a need. It's something that we need in our life. Otherwise life is incredibly boring.
Keeps us alive. Keeps us
Absolutely.
feeling alive, the aliveness for life.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I love that. I can always think of, if you've seen something called The Egg, I watched it on YouTube, and it's basically a story. It's written by the guy that wrote The Martian, the movie.
Okay.
And it's basically, I don't want to spoil it for everybody, but you should definitely go and watch it. It's called The Egg if you go into YouTube and find The Egg. But it basically explains how we're all knowing beings, that we come into human form to experience separation and not knowing. And that's the whole point of being here. But yet when we're here, we want to strive for certainty and knowing of the future. But it's just this kind of, the whole point of being here is not knowing, of unfolding and experiencing what happens in our lives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. I'll check that out for sure.
Yeah. We digress from everything as always, but it's a beautiful flow of conversation. No, it's a really great points there about like path and how our knowing comes into being. But I think the question I want to talk about is motivation, actually. And we're back on motivation again, but like, how do people create the motivation in life? How do you help your clients to become more motivated in what, and I always like to say this, is like, what matters most to them in life?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a number of ways. I think the fact that you've asked, how do you create it? That's the first point, is that we can't just wait for motivation to strike us by lightning. We have to create it, we have to cultivate it, and we have to constantly work at it. Like, I had a client the other day, he said to me, I'm just riding, he's like, text me, he's like, mate, life's so good, like I'm smashing it, he's like, I'm really riding a wave. I was like, I know it's just a saying, riding the wave, but pump that wave. Like, when you see surfers at the end of a wave, they're pumping, when you're on a wave, pump that wave, get every ounce of that wave out, be really proactive. So yeah, cultivate it, but really we have to maintain and work at maintaining momentum. So how to, I think where people go wrong with motivation and perhaps give up on their goals is that they start like, okay, what do I want to achieve in the next 30 days? And they focus on that. But there's no alignment, or there's no connection to the bigger picture. And it's like, okay, if they do achieve that in the next 30 days, it's like, well, what next? That was kind of cool. It's kind of all right. And then they lose motivation. It's like they have to restart. All the work I do is like starting at the top, like starting big picture. What are your values? What are your 5 core values? What's important to you? And then getting, working our way back. So like, what's your vision? Like, and then I do a heart meditation with them, and I get them to really like come from their heart and vision what their future's like, how they feel, and I focus on 3 areas of life: energy, work, and love. I really like to simplify people's future. I think that's another challenge people have, is that they complicate things. Complexity is the enemy of execution, I think Tony Robbins said. So I like to simplify the future. And essentially from there, I just work just get more granular. Big vision. Then I call it a big, hairy, audacious goal, like a 10-year goal, then a 1-year goal, and then 90 days. The reason why that works is that there's a why in the now. There's a why in today, because your actions in today are connected to your 90-day goal, which is connected to your 1-year goal, which is connected to your 90-day goal, which is connected to your vision. There's alignment there, and it fuels the present moment. And so that's kind of like where I always start. It's like, start big. The reason why you're not motivated or struggling with motivation is that you don't see the consequences, or like you don't see the alignment with your bigger picture. Like, think big, think next 10 years, think next 50 years, like think big. And when we see that, we're like, right, I have alignment with my actions, and I have fuel to my day-to-day actions. So yeah, that's kind of where I get started, is starting right at the top, like values, vision, big, hairy, audacious goal.
No, I love that. I love what you said about the heart meditation, because I think sometimes we always think of this stuff as being so practical, having to be super practical, right? And I live in a world where I trust my intuition for many of my guidance, and I'll do a meditation to really drop me into a place where I'm feeling my goals, I'm feeling my vision, because our emotions are something that drive us. It possibly the only thing that drives us is our emotions, and we often discount the power of that, the power of connecting to the feeling of the future. Like, what does your vision look like? What does it feel like when you're there? When you walk around in the vision, what do you see? What was the look on your face? What are the things that you're doing? That for me creates such a tension for you to like hold and propel you forward. It almost feel like a bit of a catapult. When you really get that tension, it can really drive you, because the feelings behind it. It's not just making money or something that's like looks good but doesn't have anything rooted in like you said, your values and what you deeply believe in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. Like our I suppose our brain's ultimate purpose, right, is to go away from pain and go towards pleasure. And I think the reason why people lack motivation is that they're doing okay, they're fine. So there's not enough pain there to really propel them into the future, because often massive motivation comes through extreme pain.
Yes.
Like, I was almost on this path because I went through extreme pain, and that kind of gave me the motivation to start this. But now I've got to be even more proactive with like being really excited about that future, being really excited about that pleasure, and that's, as you said, like feeling the vision of the future, like really allowing yourself to like imagine what the feeling of your vision would be like, not just thinking about it. Because if you think your way there, it won't be enough pleasure to attract you, like to really move you into action. You've got to feel that, like, and allow yourself to feel that, and that takes real courage, because it's a lot easier not to imagine the future or vision the future, because I think a lot of people are worried or scared that by putting out there, they risk disappointment. So it takes courage to do this. It takes courage to allow yourself to feel the future. But absolutely, and that's where I always start. And it often surprises people, because people come to me for like, high performance action. And the first session, I'm like, right, let's do a heart meditation. They're like, what? Yeah. I did not sign up for this. But if you try and think your future, it will be practical. It will be what society, it will be what your ego wants. But actually, you do this heart meditation where it genuinely surprises people what comes up, because it's and there's science behind this, that heart brain coherence. Like they've done science where they've measured the wavelengths that your heart is on when it's in place of gratitude and love, versus when it's on a place of anger. And when it's in a place of gratitude and love, it vibrates at exactly the same frequency as your brain. And they communicate. Your heart and your brain communicate, and your heart actually sends more signals to your brain, which is amazing. But like this heart meditation I do with people, often brings people to tears, but it also shows them what's really important. Like, you're always amazed about what comes up. Like, and for me, it's always a sense of freedom. It's a sense of travel. It's a sense of abundance. It's a sense of freedom's a big one for me, and a real strong feeling of like presence and like love comes up for me, and feeling healthy, like feeling like I could run up anything or climb over anything or kayak or like, and feeling that like it drives my day-to-day actions. Like, it drives me, and the days I don't connect into that are the days I'm probably a little bit more stagnant and flat. But the days I connect into that why, that vision, it's like, oh, like I know why, I know my why. And then when you have a big enough why, you figure out the how, you get through the how.
Wow.
But when you think your way there, you try and get, your brain goes to the how, doesn't it? It focuses on the practical stuff.
Yeah, man. I feel moved by everything you said, because it's like I do a similar thing every day. It's like I connect to my goals, I connect to my vision every single morning, like for anything from kind of 15 minutes, half an hour. And it's really the feeling of it, you know. And I love what you said about this, the signal between the brain and the heart. I never knew the frequency when they move in sync. So it's like when our heart is on the same frequency as our brain, that's when we're in optimal way of being, basically. And that's beautiful to know. And I did hear recently about the fact that our body sends more signals up to our brain than it does downwards. So it's like there's a wisdom that contains in our body that has a lot more information than we give it credit for, but we've overemphasized the importance of the brain. But actually the body and the heart has so much more information to give the brain if we allow it to listen to it. But I love that it's a heart meditation. It's just like we're in this world of like hit goals, make money, high performance. Connect to your heart's deepest desires first, and then we will get there. And that is the route there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think what surprises most people who work with me is like, they come to me for that action, productivity, practical steps, but then it's like, okay, let's connect to your heart. Because the action, like, that's my bread and butter. But if you can combine that action and that productivity and that efficiency and the effect, all that kind of good stuff, with that heart, that softer stuff, that gratitude, that full engagement, that love, like, that's for me the goal.
Oh, no, I love that. Yeah, I just love that it's more and more, like the more and more I speak to people, and it's like this is where real creating occurs, is when we can really be in our hearts and come from a place of like you said, love and gratitude. Not just my theory is that when we think, our thinking is like a very low vibration, to be honest, of ability to create, because when we're thinking, we're generally coming from the past. We can only think what we've already seen or experienced. But when we come from a place of like our heart, our intuition, our knowing, it's not trapped, it's not confined by our past experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, like, I suppose that's the feeling of flow, right? It's where you feel so engaged and things are just coming to you, and you can't think your way into flow. Like, flow happens when we're totally present and we know where we're going. But we need to know where we're going. Without knowing where we're going, then there's second guessing. So like, that's why I always start with that vision, where we're going. And allowing that to come from the heart.
Beautiful. I feel like I just want to feel everything you said. It just feels so beautiful. It's like, it almost reminds me as well. It's like, like I forgot to create some goals around the podcast and stuff this year. I've been putting it off, and I know why I'm putting it off, because there's a level of like fear there for me. Like, if I put it out there, like you were saying before, if I put out, there's this goal, what does that mean? But it's like, no, actually that really lights my heart on fire to have that kind of North Star to move towards.
Yeah.
So now we've got the motivation, right? We've got our motivation in place. We come from our heart, and now we're into kind of the day-to-day of creating it. Like, how do we as people create the consistency to keep taking action towards these big, hairy, audacious goals to our heart's desire?
Yeah. So I think what comes up for me around this is people lack consistency, I think, because they're not 100% committed. They're not 100% committed to at least the route they're going on. They're 98% committed. Maybe not even that much, but whatever. Even if they're 98% committed, when you're 98% committed, it means you're really on the fence. It means you're not fully all in. It means you kind of want cake. So you kind of want to lose weight, but you kind of want cake as well. You know, you kind of want to focus, but you also kind of want to go on Instagram or WhatsApp. It means you kind of want to get fitter, but you also kind of want to, you know, lie on a sofa for a few hours. But when we get 100% committed, we rely less on willpower. Willpower is needed for people who are 98% committed. Willpower just doesn't work. Like, I consistently every day wake up at 5 a.m. And I'm not saying everyone needs to wake up at 5 a.m., and I want to caveat that, I operate so much better when I wake up at 5 a.m. And that's something I'm 100% committed to. Because I'm 100% committed to, I don't rely on willpower. I design my environment so that willpower is not needed. And that's the difference. When you're 100% committed, you outsource your willpower, you outsource your motivation. You do things like investing in your future self. You do things like creating forcing functions. So forcing functions are, so my alarm goes off every morning at 5 a.m. and I'm saying I'm totally committed to. If I relied on willpower and I had my phone next to me, I would press snooze. But I'm 100% committed to wake up at 5 a.m. So I leave my phone in the kitchen with an app called Alarmy, and you have to do 3 maths equations to switch it off. So by the time I've got up, gone to the kitchen, solved 3 maths equations, I'm awake. That is something I'm totally committed to. That's a forcing function. When I wanted to become a writer, I was like, I'm 100% committed to that. So I announced and launched a newsletter, a weekly newsletter. And I wrote, this will be a weekly newsletter. You'll receive it every Sunday. That was a forcing function because I was 100% committed to becoming a writer. Like investing in your future self, that's another forcing function. I have a coach that I cannot afford at the moment, but by investing in my future self, it means I have to raise my standards. I cannot afford to slack. But I'm 100% committed to becoming the person I want to become. I've got a personal trainer. Again, like, money's pretty tight at the moment, but I'm 100% committed to living well, moving well. So I invest in a personal trainer. So I think that's the thing, is like, get 100% committed and think in forcing functions. Like, sign up to a triathlon, sign up to an event. Like, I have a competition with the friends who can burn the most calories in a month. Like, it's another little forcing function. Design your environment for success. People struggle with motivation because they're fighting against their environment. Like, create a path of least resistance to things you want and most resistance to things you don't want. Like, I noticed through the first lockdown, I was having a beer every night. And I was like feeling unhealthy for it. And I was like, hang on a minute. At the moment, I'm committed to having a beer every night. And I've made it very easy because there's always a box of beer in the fridge. So it's easy. I open up the fridge, I see them there. So now I put my beer at the back of a cupboard, and just that resistance of going to reach up to a beer, put it in the fridge and cool it down. I'm like, well, I might as well not do it. And the same, I have my TV on a timer. So past 8 p.m, it switches off. So to switch it back on, I have to then go and unplug it, reset it, it'll take 10, 15 minutes. It's like, well, might as well not bother, because I'm committed to have a digital sunset from 8 p.m. and reading before bed. That's something I'm totally committed to. If I wasn't committed to that, I'd have to rely on willpower at 8 p.m. to stop watching TV. What's the chances of that? Nothing. So that's the work I do. It's all about getting super clear about who you want to be, the behaviors align with that person, and then getting 100% committed to not all of them, just starting with one action, like one behavior per month, whatever it might be. Like when I built the habit of waking up at 5 a.m., that's the only habit I focused on for 3 months. The only habit. Whereas a lot of people try and do everything all at once and they set themselves up for failure. Focus on one thing that's going to have the biggest impact on your life. Go all in on that. Create forcing functions, invest in your future self, and then really, like, motivation's not really needed, because you need it once. That's it. You need it once to set up all these defense mechanisms for yourself.
Yeah. I love the forcing functions, and I've always been taught as like structures. You create structures in your life, right? And it's like you might create. For instance, we talk about diet's a good one. So, like yourself, the back end of last year, I saw myself. I was getting out of control. I just had Snickers and chocolate and crisps in the house all the time, like everywhere. There were cupboards full of stuff. And then at the beginning of the year, I said to my girlfriend, I said, "Oh, look, I'm putting myself on a diet. I always do this particular diet every January, right? It's just a very strict. You basically have the same 3 meals every day and snacks, and there's like a juice." And I said, "So I'm just not going to buy any of that stuff, and I don't want it in the house." And she was like, "Yep, I'm committed to that. That's fine." So there just literally there were moments where I felt weakness. My willpower was low. My willpower was very low, and I would look through the cupboards, and the only snack that was there was cashew nuts.
Yeah.
Right? And some almonds. And you think, when that's the only snack, you think, okay, I'm going to try that. It's a decent snack. It's some cashew nuts, some almonds. But when you go back maybe the second or third time, you're like, okay, that's not really what I want. And it's not too bad because it's a reasonably healthy snack. They can be very high in fat, but nonetheless, but it's like I put structures in place that I couldn't fail in this. I didn't have a couple of bars of chocolate hidden around the back of the cupboard or anything like that. It's like you put something into place that keeps you there. And I'm not too dissimilar from you. I started waking up at 7 a.m. every day. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get up at 7 a.m. And I just set an alarm and I was like, okay, I'm getting up at 7. And these are the things I want to do in the morning. I want to start reading in the morning, like reading something that wasn't about work, but also nourished my brain. So I did tiny little things. Like I just left the book at night. I leave the book on my table in the front room. So as soon as I get up and I come in the front room, it's there. And like once I've built that in over the last 6 weeks, going up at 7, it's like now my body it's just like 10 to 7. I wake up, I kind of look at the alarm and I'm like, it's already that time almost. I might as well just, breathe into the day. But it is, like you said, creating structures, or even I've got an accountability group that I'm part of. And I've been in this accountability group for say 2.5 years now. And there's about 6 of us. And we have like a structure that we have. You have weekly calls with a couple of people, but it's like these forcing functions. It's like someone's going to call me tonight and be like, "So David, how's your week been? How have you got on with the goals and the tasks and the things that you're committed to?" And it's like this puts you in a place where you've got this accountability and these other structures to hold you to this. It's like you said, willpower no longer becomes the deciding factor between your consistency or lack of consistency.
Exactly. Yeah, I that's what it's all about. It's like investing in your future self and getting totally committed to who you want to become and designing your environment to make it easy for yourself and setting yourself up for success. Most people set themselves up for failure by setting the bar too high sometimes. Like I hate working out from home. I'm having a hip replacement in 3 weeks, but still I work out, I would say 80% of the days at the moment, despite being able to do very little and despite hating working out from home. But I set myself up for success in the fact that when I wake up, I put my gym kit straight on. The days I don't put my gym kit on, I usually don't work out. Like it's that much of a correlation. And I just aim to put my gym kit on. I then just aim, okay, I'll just listen to some music, my priming playlist, put on my priming playlist. That's all I aimed for. And sure enough, I put on some priming music and I'm like, cool, I might as well do some stretching. And then, okay, I'll do 10 minutes. And then sure enough, 10 minutes times to 30 minutes. Whereas what most people do is like, tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to do an hour of yoga, 2 hours of working out. It's like, you get there and you're like, oh, that seems awful. I'm never going to do that. Set the bar really, really low, especially on the days where you really don't want to do it. And I always say, like, what you do on the tough days determines what you do on the extraordinary days. I don't know who said that quote, but it's something I really like to live by. The days that I don't want to do something, they're the most important days to do it. Like, the days I really don't want to work out, just do a couple minutes, just do 5 minutes. Because when you do that, you maintain momentum. And when you have momentum, life is like, it's an amazing resource, momentum, because life just feels more easier. You get more clarity, you get more inspiration. You know, momentum leads to inspiration. So like maintaining that momentum is really, really important when it comes to consistency. And we do that by just setting the bar really low on quantity and high on consistency, by just setting the bar low. Yeah.
Like that's just what I really heard when you say about on the tough days. It's almost the message we send our brains as well, that okay, this is a tough day, but I still managed to do something. So even at your worst, you're a capable human being that can hit their goals. That's a really important kind of message to send our subconscious, that we are capable. Even at our worst, even our darkest, our hardest days, we are still capable human beings at doing what we want to do and what's important to us.
Yeah, exactly. Like self-trust is like such a powerful resource, like being able to trust your own word. Like I honestly believe my word is my power. Like what I say to myself and what to others is my power. And like, fortunately, I've done that for years and years and years. So I now have the ability to, like last week I said, I'm going to do a 5 minutes in the sea, like Vancouver, like the Pacific here is like maybe 5-6 degrees. I said, right, I'm going to do I did 4 days, but 80% is pretty good. I said, right, I'm going to do 5 days, 5 minutes in the sea. And I said that, and I just knew I had to do that. Like as soon as I say something, I have to do it. Like, because my word is my power. Like I need to be able to trust myself. I've done that over years, so I have the ability to set myself some relatively big challenges. Like for Wim Hof, that's pathetic, but you know, for a lot of people, that's pretty challenging. But I can do that because I've worked on that for years and years and years. I've got high self-trust with myself. I think the problem where Instagram and social media comes in is that people compare that with their day zero, and they're like, I'm going to do 5 days in the sea next year, despite never being able to trust their word or never being able to put themselves in uncomfortable situations. And when they do that, they lose self-trust and they confirm their lack of belief, their lack of confidence with themselves. So if you lack consistency or confidence, building that self-trust is the first thing. And we do that by just setting the bar really low. Like aim for 10 seconds in a cold shower, or aim for a minute workout tomorrow. Not like aim to just put on your trainers. Like, and then slowly build your self-trust, like build trust with your own word. And when you can do that, that's when you can set bigger goals and improve and gradually, but people try and run before they can walk, I think.
And it kind of what you're saying leads really perfectly into the last questions, doesn't it? It's like how the last question I had was around how to build simple steps to build, you know, the success mindset that we want. But in there, what you said about the self-trust, and I really love that, because it's like we always think about trust is something we have external, right, with other people, you know, with other people doing things. But actually, and this is my belief, and it comes from a lot from my seeing dating and relationships, is actually the trust we have of ourselves is the most important trust that we have, because that's where our trust in other people starts. If we can't trust ourselves, then we're always going to be very distrustful of other people. And like you're saying, like having that low bar of saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to give a really easy example. I'm going to drink 2 liters of water tomorrow, and then setting yourself up to make sure you can do that. Maybe that's having 2 bottles already poured out in the morning or whatever it may be. And it's also in recognizing our comparison, our need to compare, because like you were saying there, like it's very easy on Instagram. And I know we joked about this when we were doing the Instagram live, how there's always someone we're looking up to compare ourselves, which erodes our own trust in our own ability to do something. But it's like inside of setting a realistic bar for ourselves, or even a low bar to start with, to just have those baby steps to kind of move up.
Yeah, 100%. Like simplify. Like I really, this one thing I really try and do is just try and simplify all this. Like simplify. You know, I do think personal development is overcomplicated, and you know, gurus need to sell courses, right? So they come up with the next, like, you know, 7 steps to do this. It's like, it can be really simple. It's just getting clear, super clear on who you want to be.
Yeah.
Asking yourself how that person would behave, and just installing one of those habits, one of those routines. Once you nail that, move on to the next. Once you nail that, move on to the next. And it's just trusting that those incremental improvements over time will transform your life, and they really do. Like they really do. And then the other one is just delayed gratification. Like if we just focused on maybe delayed gratification, then again our life would change. So yeah, those 2 things is how you change your life, I think.
Yeah, because we often go for the thing that will make us feel good in this moment right now, you know. And I think now with social media, it's very easy to constantly be trying to get that little dopamine hit, you know. And that's something I saw for myself. There's a meditation I do, it's called a spirit guide meditation, and one of the things I really got back was like, for the next week is for me to only be a consumer on Instagram. The opposite, to not do any consuming of information on Instagram. Just post, reply to messages, you know, stuff like that. Just do the things I have to do, but don't be scrolling, because it's very easy to just go through and, oh, that's nice, I like that, oh, someone liked my post, and you feel this instant gratification, when actually the delayed gratification for me would probably come in like focusing on my writing or creating my courses and stuff like that, because that's what's going to really get me to be the person I really want to be in the place I really want to.
Yeah, exactly. When I was in the sea last week, I had this insight that the less your brain wants to do something, the more you enjoy it afterwards. Like the more pride or the more satisfaction you get afterwards. But the more your brain wants to do something, the more regret you have of doing it afterwards. You know, your brain wants to eat that chocolate bar, but every time you eat the chocolate bar, most times you regret it, right?
Yeah.
But your brain never wants to do the hard work. It never wants to do the uncomfortable stuff. And then that's comes back to like that idea of trust. It's like knowing when not to trust your ego, right? And I know I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here, but I generally think there's kind of 2 types of people. There's a type of people where their inner voice is telling them to do more. They've got to do more. They've got to do more work. And actually what those people need to do is less. They need to stop. They need to go for a walk, give themselves space. And that's me. Like every time I feel anxious, every time I feel overwhelmed or whatever it might be, my thoughts are telling me I need to do more. I know, you know, your emotion, this is my take on it, your emotions are a barometer of the quality of your thinking. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed and anxious, then the quality of my thoughts must be terrible. And I check in with that. Okay, what are my thoughts telling me? My thoughts are telling me I need to do more. Okay, I'll do the opposite. I close down my laptop and I go for a walk. And then always what follows is clarity and inspiration or action after that. The other type of person is where their thoughts are telling them to do less, that they need a day off, that they need to rest. They've been working hard. You need a lie-in. You know, you need an hour lie-in. You need to hit snooze. You deserve it. What those people need to do is just get out a shovel and start digging and work and take action. But it's often our thoughts can't be trusted. They just want us to play safe, right? They want us to be safe and comfortable. So yeah, it's very interesting, that kind of action versus surrender. But yeah.
God, you're really speaking to me with the first one. It's like I'm the same. My voice is like, you're not doing enough. You need to do this other thing. Add this other thing to your diary. Add this other thing. Do this thing. You've forgotten about that thing. And my message, I'm getting it from you. I'm getting a lot of messages at the moment. It's just like, no, you need to do less. Slow down. walk more in like I live right next to, I literally 5 minutes and I'm in the forest, you know, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm meant to be going to the forest more every day. I should probably go, and even if it's only like 10 minutes, but yeah, to just slow down a bit. But I feel that's a really beautiful, it's a real simplified look at it. It's like if you're being told that you need to do more, do less.
Yeah.
If you've been told to do less, go do some more. Because
exactly.
I guess in those instances, for the first type of people who are being told to do more, their default way of thinking is do more. So mostly they're going to fall into that default way of thinking.
Yeah.
So if you can combat it consciously with some conscious rest, then it's going to help you recharge. Whereas to the people who are, you know, by default doing less, that's their default way of being. So they have to combat it consciously by doing more, and that will help them move forward.
Exactly. Hang on.
Thank you, Joel. That was a really smooth. That was a really clear way everyone can kind of look and go, okay, where do I fit into these two places? Which is my predominant thinking? What's my predominant way of being? And then to help me create that mindset I want to move forward and create the life that I want. And as you said before, move towards one's own heart's desires.
Yeah, bang on. Absolutely.
Beautiful. What a wonderful conversation. I feel really filled with motivation. I feel very motivated. I'm like, almost feel what went through my mind just there was like, maybe I'm going to go for a walk now before I go to bed. It's a bit chilly outside, but you know, it's fine. I think I will actually, if you motivate me, I'll go for a little walk in the dark. But before that, the listeners will be wondering where they can hear from you, get in contact with you, and any programs or coaching that you've got coming up.
Yeah, thanks very much. And yeah, it was a lovely conversation. I always love our chats. They could go anywhere, and I love that. So yeah, probably two places. Instagram, so my handle is I am Joel Burgess. So I'll announce any new products on there. My main focus at the moment is my journal. So it's a sort of a 13-week, it's 12-week, but it's added extra at the end. 12-week self-guided journal. So it kind of intertwines productivity with that sort of self-inquiry. So every week there's like a self-reflection to ask questions about what you want from life, and it goes through that journey, that exactly what I talked about, that starting big and then getting more granular. So it starts with values, vision, goals, and then it gets more granular and actually actualizes those things, like looking at environment design, how you draw energy, self-trust, resilience. But then also every day there's kind of a productivity framework to simplify, you know, what is your one thing today. So that's like my biggest focus right now. But Instagram or my website, which is joelburgess.me. So those two places. Yeah, that'd be great.
Beautiful. And if you, obviously listeners, you're listening, so you can't see the journal, but I've seen it and it's stunning. It's a beautiful, just the outside looks stunning. It's very inviting. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh man, look at Joel's journal. That journal looks so fucking badass. Oh, I love it. Thank you, Joel. Thank you. And obviously, listeners, the links will be down in the show notes for the various places to find Joel and his journal. And hopefully there'll be some more conversations between me and Joel. There's some wonderful conversations and some wonderful sharing in some men's groups we've been on. But until our next chat, we'll say goodbye.
Amazing. Thanks so much, dude. Loved it.
Cheers. Bye-bye.